We're driving on this absolutely beautiful spring day, and we're about 2 blocks away from the Nurse Homestead. You'll see the site come up on the left in a few moments. We're visiting today to speak to Rachel and Josh, 2 people doing some work in the cemetery. If you've seen our previous videos, you know that the homestead has a cemetery on the west side of the property in the field that we call the backfield, because it's the field on the opposite side of the property's entrance. The front field is the field we see when we first drive onto the property. I know that Rachel and Josh have made some really interesting discoveries in the cemetery, and I'm excited to see what they've found. Let's park the car and see if we can find them. Okay, we're here at the site. Probably last year, we started to do some work. We had someone come in, a company come in and start doing some work on the cemetery. So I thought today we'd go down to the cemetery and see what they're about. And don't forget, please click the subscribe button and the bell, and consider sponsoring us on Patreon, patreon.com. It really helps. So let's get down to the cemetery, see what's going on. Well, I want to thank you guys for doing this.
Oh, no problem.
Not only the videotaping here, but even the work you're doing.
Oh, well, I'm doing some drudgery right now. Nothing too exciting. I'm just trying to chisel out some old repair mortar that originally held the stone in place. God knows when the last time that was actually in the base. So we're trying to remove the old stuff so that we can remortar it.
Yep.
So it's not glamorous what I'm doing right now, but it needs to be done.
So, can you just talk to me about your company, how you got doing this?
Sure. Yep. Okay, so my name is Joshua Gerloff.
Joshy.
Yep. Yep. We basically, we started out as volunteers in Gloucester. We actually found a burial ground that was so overgrown that we felt compelled to, help out and restore it, to the best of our ability. And that was our first project.
Yeah.
And and we were we really enjoyed the work, so we started volunteering in Ipswich. And I think it's more like they wanted us to have insurance.
Yeah.
So we started.
Sense, yeah.
We started.
Newbury wanted us to have insurance.
Yeah, somebody wanted us to have insurance. So that's kind of like why we started a business, is because we would have been volunteering to do the same work, except just people want to make sure that that they're covered.
Absolutely, no question. Yeah. So this was like learning on the go. I mean, you don't go to graveyard preservation.
We both have relevant backgrounds. Josh is a landscaper, and I studied geology and pre-law. So we both have sort of relevant backgrounds to saving burying grounds. But when it came to actually learning the skills, we learned from people who already did it. So we would hire professionals in the field who kind of learned from people who already did it too, and just pass down their knowledge of how to use restoration mortars and restoration techniques. Lots of people are going around doing weird things to gravestones. You really need to know how to conform to the Secretary of the Interior standards. So we chose teachers that we knew conformed to these standards.
Sure.
And learned all of our skills from them, sort of piecemeal. When we wanted to learn how to clean stones, we hired someone down at Plymouth to teach us, to come up and teach us. And we wanted to learn how to repair gravestones with mortar. We hired Tamara Conda out in Western Massachusetts to come over and teach us. So yeah, we just kind of piecemealed our knowledge together, and you know, we've been doing this for 7 years now.
Oh, wow.
And so we feel like we're experts in our own right at this point, but we learned from experts. We didn't get there, you know.
Well, I know we're
on our
happy.
own.
I mean, you know, from the damage alarm point, you know,
Right.
because, and as you know, cemeteries, especially around here in New England, but, you know, they deteriorate. And, you know, and as you know, too, a lot of these headstones had been fallen over, and we've just brought them up in the house decades ago. They've been sitting up there for decades. You know?
It's only been a year, and it's actually hard for me to imagine what it was like when we got here because so much has changed. Like, I know that wasn't up, that wasn't even standing, right? The fourth stone in wasn't standing. The third stone in was partially broken. I mean, it's just hard for me to imagine because a lot of these came from your storage, but you found pieces of it under the ground.
Yeah,
so
that's
able
cool.
To take your
Yeah.
storage stuff and match it with stuff that we found while excavating. And then while excavating, we found things like missing footstones. So these footstones weren't here.
Right.
These are footstones we found under random. It's not like we found this footstone under that headstone and that under that.
Right. They're all over the place.
They were
Random.
literally all over the place. And so I'll show you what we found the other day. So I actually thought we were going to excavate down there for missing pieces and find lots of stuff down there, but we actually found Matthew Putnam's footstone.
Yes, I saw your Facebook Live.
Yeah, oh, I love doing those. So
Yep.
we found Matthew Putnam's footstone underneath the ground. Matthew Putnam was leaning. You know this.
His headstone was, not him.
Yeah. Matthew Putnam is lying,
Yeah.
but his headstone was leaning. So we found out when we excavated that the bottom half was broken. So there's the bottom half. We poured a base, which is where the base is on the cart right there. So we're going to put the base in the ground and put his headstone in the slotted base. And then we're going to put the plaque back, and we're going to repair the footstone and either reset it 4 to 5 feet behind it, which actually the mower said is fine, or right behind it like we did
Right here.
there. We set that footstone right behind it because this was under the ground.
Just to keep it out of the way.
Keep out of the way of the mowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not historically correct, but
Yes.
it was historically correct to have it shoved underneath the headstones
Yes.
either.
Yeah,
so.
true. And especially in
Middle
someone
ground.
else's grave.
I guess what we wanted to do was we wanted to know the opinion of the mowers,
Yeah.
because, you know, we suspect that, you know, whoever was mowing the lawn, you know, maybe in the 70s or something.
They just
like-
got sick of dealing with that
Yeah.
stuff.
Maybe they
Whoever
felt like
owned
the
it.
But it-
footstones were just in the way.
But it's interesting that it would do it randomly, though. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this too. See if I have this correct, because I think I learned this from you guys. Right? I've learned a lot. Trust me.
Well, then it must be right.
Yes, that's right. So first of all, I had never heard of a footstone,
Yeah.
right?
So it's like a bed.
Do you see them around?
I see them all the time in old
Yeah.
graves. They're not things that we use anymore. By 1800s and before, footstones were so common.
Yep.
It's really just a bed. Here's your headboard, your footboard, and the body is in between.
Right.
And it makes it so you're not going to dig where the body is.
Right. So what's interesting too is that to me is like if I've ever gone to an older cemetery, I probably saw them and just thought they were small headstones.
Yep.
Before I knew better, I thought they were babies.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I learned too, here's number 2, is that as I'm sitting here looking at the headstone, the body's behind it, where today the body would be in front of it, correct?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay.
I mean, it depends on the how the plot you're being buried in is configured.
Yeah.
If there's
Well-
room to bury in front or behind.
Because it seems
we
like
do-
to me any modern cemetery, it's always you're buried in front of it.
We do have a map, and the thing is whenever they made a map before, they would tell you like where the plot is. So, and the map, let's say they made one 100 years ago. They're not going to say, oh, the headstone was here and the footstone was there. It's up to you to figure out, well, you know, things have obviously been moved.
Yeah.
Was the headstone at the top and the footstone was here? We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it started early too. Like, I don't know if you know what an embedded fieldstone is.
No.
Do you want me to show you something cool?
Sure.
So before there were gravestones,
Oh, right into the ground?
there were just embedded fieldstones.
Yeah, I'm not up on my
Mark early
cemetery.
They mark like early burials, right? So they just basically look like rocks, but they're clearly in rows sometimes, or upended in a way that's unnatural. So people are always wondering, oh, where's Rebecca Nurse buried? She most likely would have been buried with fieldstones, just like
So on top of the grave, fieldstones?
just like George Jacobs was buried between two fieldstones on his farm. So these are fieldstones, and those are likely marking graves.
Oh, no kidding.
These are fieldstones over here too. These are more obvious, right?
Yeah.
Because they're upended. Those are marking graves. And then sometimes with fieldstones, kind of like what George Jacobs had before he was disinterred and eventually moved here, sometimes fieldstones actually do have head and footstones.
So,
Yeah.
so this could be the
This could be
footstone
the
or the
footstone
headstone
for
to that.
that. It's not uncommon for headstones, for fieldstones, embedded fieldstones to have
Well,
head and footstones too.
this is fascinating. So I've been a member of the Damas Alumnus for about 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And we had, a few years ago, we had someone come up and do an archaeological dig, you probably know, up at the house.
Yeah.
And he stood there, the guy, he's a PhD, right, in archaeology. And he stood there and he looked out and he said, see that mound? He said, that was a privy, or that was a. I'm like, you're kidding me. I've been coming here for 20 years, walked across that plot all the time.
Yeah.
Never knew that. So you just blew my mind. I've been coming to the cemetery for 20 years.
You're going to see them everywhere.
Thought that was a rock.
You're going to see it everywhere. I mean, that is clearly
Yeah, this clearly, yeah.
positioned in a way
Right.
that is unnatural, right?
But that there, I would have thought that was a headstone that just deteriorated,
Nope.
right? But now that you're saying it, no, it's a rock
It's
that's
an
been
embedded
placed there
fieldstone.
purposely.
This could possibly be one too back here. Just sunken.
And of
Kind of
course,
cool, right?
yeah, it is very cool. And of course, all the rest of them all around probably is either no one or we've lost any type of marker.
Well, if you think too, there was no one over here, right? Because we have early photos of when all of these headstones were
True.
added. There was no one over here. There was like some point a slate gravestone right on the other side of this marker.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about the one that's encased.
Yeah.
That is a different one. I probed for that. I couldn't find it. But if you think like really early back when Rebecca Nurse was hanged in 1692, this would have just kind of been maybe wooded a little bit.
Well, yeah,
maybe,
300 acres.
maybe
so,
a
yeah.
field.
Yeah.
And if you were trying to discreetly bury somebody, you would do it with fieldstones
Right.
out in an obscure place. So
Right.
there is no reason why Rebecca Nurse isn't buried on this
Right.
site.
You would think she would be somewhere.
She possibly could be, and that would inspire other people to bury their people around her.
And
right?
if she's buried probably around here, in somewhere around the cemetery,
That's
I would
what
think.
Dan told me. That she's probably buried in here. So any of these.
But we don't
fieldstones-
know. Just let everyone know. We don't know.
Oh no! But any of these fieldstones could belong to her, and then the cemetery would have evolved
Around
around
her.
those early burials,
Right.
which would make perfect sense because the family would have known there were early burials here,
Right.
right? So,
Right. And of course, that knowledge got lost in time.
Yeah. So
Right.
it's exciting to think that even though we definitely will never know where Rebecca Nurse was buried, there's a good chance it was here.
Well, I'm even surprised about George Jacobs that we could find him. You know,
Yeah.
possibly him.
But it was the same thing, two fieldstones and him in the middle
Yeah.
of his
Cool.
farm.
So, can you show me like some techniques did you guys use? So I see like you actually put the headstones, if they're broken apart, you mortar them back together. Is that
Yeah. This one isn't a particularly good example because we put
missing piece?
we put a temporary prosthetic piece in there because
Yeah.
we didn't know if we were going to find that missing piece while excavating. And so far we haven't.
Oh, so
So-
that could be knocked out and then put
yeah,
the piece
oh yeah,
back.
no, it's like mostly marble dust.
Yeah.
So it can easily be chiseled right out. But a typical repair, I'll let Josh show you. I'm doing an awful lot
Yeah,
of talking.
he's
Yep. So these so this period of marble stone, they either, you know, it would either be a tablet all by itself in the ground, or it would be in a base. And when we excavated these, I can't quite remember. Wait, I think this one was in storage, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we found the base. And
Yeah, so those bases you're saying are new. You created those bases.
Yep. So we make
Yeah.
these bases out of concrete, and then we bring them here, and then we mortar the stone
Together.
in there.
With like a soft mortar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
like
can
a
be
soft
removed.
mortar. If we ever find like the other pieces or
Now, how long do you think that would last now?
Decades and decades and decades.
Decades?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be gone.
yeah, probably 100 years.
Oh,
we could
cool.
probably say 100 years. You know, and then you would just in 100 years you can expect the stone to tilt a little bit. So like in 100 years you would come back, you would make sure that the base was plumb, and then if the mortar was broken you would just chisel it out,
Yeah.
and then you would just put it back in and just replace the mortar.
Very cool.
Yeah, and and then same thing, like, so if the base is usable, so we have Rhoda Nurse here.
She's on a die.
What?
That's a die. It's a little different, but yeah.
This is called die-in base. It means it's like a multi. It's a monument with like multiple pieces. And so this one's simple. All we have to do is repair it. So we're just gonna put some epoxy, maybe like a couple dots of epoxy, and then we'll go around and we'll fill in all around.
So I see a bolt or something. That's
That's a pin.
a pin.
So if you were to look on
Yep.
the bottom of here,
It
the
has a hole.
monument,
Yep,
you'll see a hole
yep,
that the pin would go up into.
yep. So we don't necessarily. What they have done in the past is they would use like other pins that would eventually rust,
Yeah.
and when you have a pin rusting in here, the rust expands, and then it'll blow out the stone.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when if it's not structurally necessary, we don't even replace the pin. We just take the pin out
Gotcha.
and we clean the rust out of there,
Epoxy and stick
and
it
then
together.
just put it back. As long as the epoxy is going to hold it and the mortar will hold it, it'll be fine.
So it's interesting, of course, water's like that. That water can get in between there.
It's important to note too, every single stone is different. So we might use one technique on this stone and not use it on the stone
Sure.
next to it,
Yeah.
because it'll be eroded in a different way, or it'll have just a different balance of gravity. Sometimes we'll use epoxy, sometimes we'll just use mortar without epoxy. So it's really a stone by stone. So I wouldn't want anyone to watch this and think, wow, now I know how to do it. Because it's really, it's really a stone by stone situation.
Well, I know I'm not going out doing this work.
What we're doing to this isn't necessarily what we did to one over there that had pins. On that one, there's one over there where we removed them all and then we replaced them with non-corrosive pins. This one, because it's not showing any signs of corrosion, it's not going to actually bust the stone open at this point. We're just leaving it be, because leaving it be is less harmful than, drilling it out.
Sure.
So
Yep. So what's the most interesting thing? Is it the footstones being buried? I mean, of this particular cemetery? Yeah.
I mean, we just don't know what you want to see something neat we found yesterday, or what was it?
I
Monday?
certainly do.
So we catalog everything that we take out of the ground and then we put it back. I had an archaeologist look at this little fragment.
Yep.
It is like, you remember, like the Boston bean pots
Oh yeah.
from
You
the
still get them?
1800s.
Yeah.
But I think he called it brown glazeware that was made in Boston.
Yeah.
Just a couple inches down, so everything goes back and we document it all. But I love finding little signs of life.
Have you been in the house to see what we?
have.
Yeah.
I've been in that house an awful lot, actually.
Well, what's interesting to me is how did that get down here?
Dan said there was some sort of a tea party at one point down here to raise money for the
Could be.
monument.
Well, yeah,
so
yeah.
that's probably just one of many
True.
events that happened.
Yeah, that's true too. Events, though. Yeah, they had. And we have pictures where you see people. Whenever this was erected, 1885. You can see people all around here, 20, 30, 40, 50.
Yeah, and it's not actually unusual for us to find pieces of ceramic. Sometimes people would just break something in their house and go, where can we dump it, and just throw it where they didn't think it would be seen, or some of it could be grave goods, parts of vases, stuff like that. So, it's pretty cool.
So you probably get this question a lot. I think you do because I was reading your website. But what's the most interesting thing you guys have found?
here?
Not here,
in
anywhere,
general?
anywhere in general.
Oh boy. I never find anything that I'm not sort of expecting to find that's in our wheelhouse of things to find. But really, this has been the most interesting site because we drag out surprises almost every single day.
Yeah.
That's why we go live so much, is we want people to be as excited when we find something unexpected as we are.
Right.
And we don't find those things in other cemeteries. We don't drag out all these.
So you're saying this cemetery, it's happening?
As far as unexpected things, yeah. This
Yeah.
is the most unexpected place I've worked in.
Well, very cool. And that's how I felt when the archaeologist came up here. I was like,
Yeah.
"You're kidding me!" I mean,
What's going on?
He could just look out over the ground and tell me, there used to be buildings there. I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's no way, right?" Sure enough, I look at pictures and there were buildings there.
Yeah.
And I also did notice that, and I said, "Wow, there must be something really interesting going on at the house." Because I get your feeds, right? But it seems like you're only doing live up here. Not only, but a lot of them are coming from here, which was very exciting, I think, to a lot of people.
You know
right?
why?
And you
Because we're in a
and when you do it,
pandemic.
you do a great job because you're very excited. You're really,
I
look
am
what we
excited.
found!
I mean, it's so cool. I'm not doing this. This is hard, grueling work. I'm not doing it because I'm not excited about it. But a lot of us going live started because we're in a pandemic.
Yes. Oh,
We're used to having an open door policy. We're used to just letting people hang out
Right.
with us and volunteer and sign waivers and clean stones while we're working. Can't do that. So, I'm very outgoing. Josh is more reserved, as you can probably tell.
Yep.
I do 90% of the talking. I do all of the social media. But I need that. I really need to interact with the public. So that's why the live videos sort of came about, is we want people here. We want to work with people, but we can't. So
no, and I think you're right. And even for us, I think it's great to be able to reach people who we normally couldn't reach.
yeah.
Right, so you don't have to come to the house necessarily anymore. You can sit in Oklahoma and learn about everything that happened in this property and Rebecca
Yeah.
Nurse and Silver
And you can help us.
Right,
Like, we love it when people are like, and that's my fifth uncle's
Right.
place removed, and he did this, because I don't have time to research that. So
right. So hopefully, folks who are from the Nurse family, maybe they have some history, or the Putnam family have some history of these grave markings and can tell us some stuff about it, right?
yeah, I love it. I love it.
So we have an event coming up in August,
August 7th.
and what's going to happen with that?
What I kind of imagine, right?
We're just going to talk about what we're doing here, stuff we've done. Maybe talk about maintenance of the stones.
Yeah.
So basically, okay, cool. So you're going to get a little bit, hopefully, in depth of what we just did today.
I have
Yeah.
like an imagination where I would print up the before photos
Yeah.
and laminate them and put them on dowels and put them in front of the gravestone, so people, because with some people we're in various levels of comfort, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to being
Yes.
close to people.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that would be a way that we could kind of walk people around and tell them about things, but people don't feel like they need to handle the same stuff, and they can just go, oh yeah, now I see it, and sort of leisurely walk around. So it's not going to be like your normal lecture where we're sitting in front of a slideshow, and because there's no electricity down here.
Right.
And it's not going to be your normal, we're taking 20 people on a tour. It's going to be somewhere in between. We're going to take you on a little tour, and then you're going to be able to find us and ask us questions about what you see. And
Yeah, I know, and I know we've been talking about at the event, and we're like, and the lack of electricity came up,
yeah,
and not only lack of electricity, lack of Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi can't reach down here.
yes.
So we're trying to figure out what are we going to do with that? So we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
It's ye olde, right? A ye olde problem. They
Ye olde.
certainly didn't have Wi-Fi and electricity back in Rebecca's day.
No, they didn't.
And they managed.
Yeah, they did. They did. The other thing, I don't know if you can, but this gate, it's probably 1800s, you think?
It was here in that photo from the 1800s.
Yeah. And you can see most of that is basically gone now.
And there was like cast iron fencing around.
Yeah. Oh,
this
around some of them.
section.
Yeah.
The whole Putnam area
Yeah, because you
was
can.
cast iron.
Oh yeah, you can see it here. You can see the blocks here.
It's so pretty. I
Yeah.
wish there was a way to get that back.
Well, I'm sure there is.
But yeah, costs a lot. I'm sure.
Well, and that's the thing, in trying to run a property like this, as you can imagine. Part of the reason that it becomes deteriorated is because we just don't have the money to keep it constantly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it is amazing that we could get this done, because I think for the family, the families who are here, for us it's really wonderful that we can do this.
Yep.
Yeah, we're trying to restore this area back to the 1800s. There's a photo from the 1960s, and the things that we're repairing now are broken in the 1960s.
Oh, because
That's
you
60 years ago.
Yeah,
and
you
they
could-
were still there.
yeah. So you
broken
could
then.
tell by the photographs generally when
Yeah, in
they're
the
broken.
1800s,
Yeah.
there was a straight line of stones and some footstones we didn't find, unfortunately. But it's going to be better than it was since before the 1960s.
No, and trust me, 20 years ago, I've been stepping over some of these headstones in the barn and stuff like that. So I know a lot of these headstones, we've collected the ones we've tried to save it just in case, right?
I know, it's really exciting.
It is exciting. Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying this one because the property is full of surprises. It really
Yep.
is.
Yeah.
You know, it's a beautiful property. I'm really glad it's happening. So, I don't want to keep you. How can folks contact you?
If they want to contact us, they can find us on Facebook. Just look up Epoch Preservation.
And it is Epic, right? E-P-O-C-H.
Yeah, EPOCH.
Yeah.
Or Epoch, if you're fancy.
Well, that's what Dan says. I'm like, Dan, what do you do?
I mean, it's not, neither's wrong. I mean, I know one of them's wrong and it's the way we say it, but it's okay.
Well, no, we had we have a friend who teaches English. We said, hey, how would you pronounce it? And he goes, I'd say epic with the upside down E.
Yeah, schwa. Is that a
Epic.
schwa? Yeah, right.
And you know, and what it means is like your era,
Right,
the
right.
time that you
The
live.
Epic, yep.
Josh came up with the name,
That's right.
Nice.
so we kept it.
And I'm looking at your T-shirt, and please, you know, if you, it's a headstone, right?
It is, you know what this shirt is from?
It's from our first project.
It's from our
No kidding.
first project.
Now, is that a company logo?
No, it was a fundraising shirt.
Oh,
So
no
it says
kidding.
First Parish Burial Ground, and
Yeah.
it's from Gloucester.
Yeah.
We were trying to raise money to, will you find my strap for me? We were trying to raise money to repair that graveyard. So we were selling these t-shirts. We should have them reprinted, but with Epic.
Yeah,
A friend of
why not?
ours designed it, so.
Yep.
So, and what was I going to say? Epic. Have you guys ever done in like the etchings? A lot of people do that
gravestone rubbing is actually illegal in most of the sites we work in.
No
because
kidding.
Everything is so fragile.
Right.
And I was a stone conservator at Salem for a couple of years, and I can't tell you how frustrating it is to repair a stone and then have somebody walk right up to a stone that you know has soft mortar in it
Yeah, and it's that-
lean on it with a piece of
Yeah.
paper. It's like, no. So usually we push for people to ban it in their sites because now you can take a mirror. Do you want us to show you? Do you
Sure.
have a second?
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Am I following or?
You can just hang out over here. I'll get the mirror.
Yeah, but I can see that. I mean, you know, you're putting stress on the stone. It's sort of like two sides of a coin. Do we preserve what's on the stone in an etching, or do we preserve the stone? You know?
Yeah, it's better with a photograph.
Well, right. That's the thing with our technology now. We can basically preserve what's on the stone with photographs and
So
stuff.
what you do is you take a mirror, if it's too dark. Which stone are you trying to light up?
I'm just trying to find some light.
Okay.
Oh, when you cast the light,
Well,
it doesn't have to be perfect. You can
Yeah.
yeah, come over here to this one over here. And you can see,
So say it was super dark. You can move light around to make
To
the
contrast.
lettering come out more
Yeah, so you can
or
get.
less, and then just take a photo. Because what people were trying to do when they were doing gravestone rubbings is to capture the details that you wouldn't be able to see visually. But there are other ways to do it. If it was very dark out, you could use a flashlight.
Right. So that would be the poor man's way of doing it, other than just get lights and stuff like that. You could just light it.
I
right?
mean, the poor man's way
would be the etching.
insinuates the fact that we haven't broken 20 mirrors and have to buy as many mirrors. But I once broke one of these mirrors on Friday the 13th at a cemetery in Salem.
With the black cat walking
Yeah,
by.
oh my God.
All right,
That's
I'm not going to
amazing.
keep you. You get work to
Yeah,
do.
we gotta go chisel.
Yep, chisel away. Again, thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for the work you're doing.
You're welcome.
You know, let us know if we need anything.
sure.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
All right, well, that was cool. I learned a lot. So now let's go up back to the back to the house. We're coming out of the cemetery now, and I'll see you guys up at the house. And one last picture. Well, that was it. That's the work that's being done down at the cemetery. So we'll call it a video for today. Remember, please subscribe, hit the bell, and if you want to see more of these videos, visit us on patreon.com, and we'll try to keep these coming. Thank you.